Harpslingers, welcome to the Harpslinger podcast, where each and every week we hang out with the greatest harmonica players on the planet. And if you're into harmonica, if you're into music at all, if you're watching this on the YouTube channel, please go down and push that subscribe button, ding the bell. That way we can let you know when we have fresh content. Also, if you're watching this on the Hohner Music Facebook page, there's a share button at the bottom. Share that to your homepage. We would love it if you could help spread the word about the Harpslinger podcast and harmonica in general. All right? Hey, you're in for a big one today, everybody. My next guest is a Grammy Award winner and member of the Country Music Hall of Fame. He's been a fixture in the Nashville studios for more than 50 years and has recorded with the greatest artists of all time: Elvis Presley, Bob Dylan, Roy Orbison, Johnny Cash, and so many more. He's part of the legendary Nashville ATeam and it's pretty much synonymous with the Nashville sound. Here he is, folks, as the kids would say, the OG of harmonica players, Mr. Charlie McCOY.
Hey,
How you doing,
Jamie.
Charlie?
How are you?
I'm doing great, man. Good to have you on the show. Thank you so much.
Hey, thanks for asking. I'm happy to be here.
Well, I've been doing a little bit of research. Of course, I've been a fan of yours for a long, long time, and you have led such an incredible life and career in the music business. You could probably give an interview for about 3 days and still not cover all of the great stories you must have to tell.
Well, timing is everything, and I came here just at the right time.
Okay.
It was ready for a harmonica player, and at the time I was only a blues player, but so the big hit record I played on the second session was Candyman, Roy Orbison, which was kind of a blues thing, so that was right up my alley. But I realized right away that if I was going to stay, I needed to do something else.
Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
I started listening to fiddles, dobros, steel guitars, listening to bluegrass music, listening to country, trying to play melodies.
Mm-hmm.
And then as a studio musician, I was taught that stay out of the way of the singer.
Right.
And that's one thing that served me well, to get out of the way.
Yeah.
I was this is what I was told. This was the whole philosophy of the Nashville ATeam.
Mm-hmm.
The song and the singer are the picture. We are the frame.
Yeah.
Our job is to frame the picture, not to distract from it.
Yeah. That's
And
great
if
advice.
you listen to all those old records back then, that's exactly what you'll hear. Those guys were brilliant.
Yeah.
They were brilliant, and they let a 20-year-old kid join them. And man, I learned so much. I mean, I couldn't have bought that education.
Yeah, that's like going to, getting your doctorate like right off the bat, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Actually, I was getting paid to get that education. What a deal.
What a deal. What a deal.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned, singers, and you started as a singer. Like your career sort of got its start in Miami, Florida. That's correct? Yeah.
Yeah, I was born in West Virginia,
Mm-hmm.
in the town where Hank Williams died, by the way,
Right.
it's just a coincidence. I didn't know who he was at the time. I was only 11 years old.
Okay.
Started playing harp when I was 8.
Uh-huh.
Also started playing guitar when I was 8.
Okay.
When I was 15, I got an electric guitar, and this was when rock and roll had just hit the radio in America.
Right.
Bill Haley and the Comets, Carl Perkins, Elvis Presley,
Mm-hmm.
and I was playing electric guitar, and I was just eat up with that,
Yeah.
and learned to sing a little bit. Chuck Berry was my hero,
Uh-huh.
and
Yeah.
I learned to play all the Chuck Berry stuff. And so I was playing one night, and Mel Tillis came in and said, "Boy, if you come to Nashville, I'll get you on records." It was like showing a steak to a wolf,
Yeah. Right.
The day after high school, I drove to Nashville, went into the office to see Mel Tillis, and the girl said, "Oh, he's out of town." We didn't have cell phones back in those days.
Right. Okay. Right.
We weren't
Of course.
calling everybody all
Yeah.
over. So anyway, his manager came out and talked to me, and he told me, his manager said, Mel told me about you.
Hmm.
Do you want some auditions? And
Wow.
duh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Sure.
Yeah.
Right on.
So I auditioned for Chet Atkins and Owen Bradley
Wow. You were thrown into the
singing.
fire right away, right? I mean, talk about.
I didn't even know who they were, singing Johnny Be Good and playing my electric guitar.
Uh
And they both turned me down. Best thing that ever happened to me.
huh.
And Owen Bradley invited me to watch a recording session, and I watched a 13-year-old Brenda Lee record one of her first hits. And when I watched that and watched those ATeam players, I said, I don't want to sing. I want to do this.
Right. Right.
I came back a year later,
Yeah.
dropped out of college, broke my father's heart.
Right.
He finally forgave me years later when I introduced him to Dolly Parton.
Hey,
But
I can understand that. Yeah.
yeah, and came back, and came back in 1959 was when I auditioned. 1960, I came back. 1961, I did my first session.
How did that
Then
come about, Charlie? How did you? How did you?
I was living with a songwriter, a guy named Kent Westbury, who, by the way, is Nashville Songwriter Hall of Fame guy. He's had a Beatle cut. He
Oh
had
wow.
huge hits, Gene Watson, Love on a
Huh?
Hot Afternoon.
Yeah.
Anyway, people would come and write with him every day, and I was fascinated by it, just watching and listening. One day they were working on a song, and he said, "Hey, why don't you get your harmonica and play along with us?" So I did, and he said, "Oh, that's great. I'm going to ask if you can be on the demo session." So I played on that demo session, and about a month passed, and got a call and said, "Chet Atkins just called. He's recording an unknown singer from Sweden named Anne Margaret, and he wants you to play exactly what you played on the demo."
Wow.
So I already knew what to play.
Yeah.
That helped
That helps.
because you're talking about being distracted.
Uh huh.
There's the Nashville ATeam, there's Chet Atkins, there's the Anita Kerr Singers, and there's 20-year-old Anne Margaret.
Yeah. I know. That's
Yeah,
enough right there.
yeah. So I knew what to do, and I played it.
Yeah.
And at the end of the session, bass player Bob Moore walked over to me and said, "You free Friday?" Man,
Yeah.
I was free the rest of my life,
Yeah. Of course. Right.
And he said, "Come back to this studio. I'm recording Roy Orbison." Whoa. I was a huge fan of Roy Orbison
Uh
already.
huh.
We did Candyman. And after the record came out, my phone started ringing. And thank God, 59 years later, it's still ringing.
Yeah. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Now,
Yeah.
Candyman was like sold like 1 million copies, right? I mean, that was a huge hit, and you started that out. I mean, it starts out with the harmonica.
Yeah. Yeah. It was, Candyman was right up my alley, too, because I was really into Jimmy Reed and Little Walter.
Yeah. Yeah. Right on.
And, so that was right in my wheelhouse. And they let me do the intro, and it was a big thing for me.
That's an amazing
Yeah.
start. That's an amazing start. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like it happened too easy. It's almost like a fairy tale.
Well, I mean, when you think about when people think of harmonica, they do think of Little Walter and Jimmy Reed and guys like that, but they also think of country music and what a staple it was and has been over the years, a staple instrument. But until you came along, it really wasn't. Is that?
No, there was only a couple of guys. Well, there was Jimmy Riddle, who played with Roy Acuff, but he played chromatic, played it upside down, by the way.
Wow. Okay.
And he was a piano player, so I never could figure out, how does your mind process that?
Yeah.
You
No.
got the high notes on the right, but then he played the chromatic with the high notes on the left.
Yeah, that's
It's
weird.
like it's I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, and then Oni Wheeler, who
Okay.
played some, and now he was a country player, but he never got a chance to really show what he could do. He played on a couple of his own records. And before that, there was Wayne Rainey and Lonnie Glosson up in Cincinnati at a big radio station, and they were, doing mail order harmonicas
Okay.
back in the early '50s.
Mm-hmm.
And but they played, it was very, very early country style. And I think the secret to my success was being around these Nashville musicians and these great players, and I was fascinated by what these guys could do. Hey, I thought I was a guitar player, man. I couldn't carry some of their picks.
I mean, you
I'm
were
not
working
kidding
with
you.
Grady Martin, right? I mean, Grady Martin,
Absolutely.
one of the original ATeam members. I mean, speaking of the ATeam, you were a member of the ATeam, but these
Yeah,
guys were
they let me join,
they let you.
but just remember this: these guys started this about 4 years earlier,
Mm-hmm.
and and we used to always hear, "Oh yeah, all y'all record in Nashville is country music." But keep in mind, at that time, four of the biggest pop acts in America: Brenda Lee, Roy Orbison, Everly Brothers, and Elvis did all their hits here.
Okay.
So
Yep.
I rest my case.
Yeah, yeah, and and today, I mean, if you look at sort of the landscape of music in Nashville, Tennessee, it's definitely not just country music. I mean, they're recording everything in this town.
Absolutely. Well, one of the big door openers was Dylan.
And
When
you were,
Dylan came, that really opened the door to especially the folk rock people, and man, they came in here. It was like the dam broke. It
yeah,
was amazing what happened.
you recorded on like four of his biggest records right here in Nashville, right? I mean, how did that come about?
Uh, I met his soon-to-be producer,
Mm-hmm.
Bob Johnson, who was a songwriter from Texas. He wrote for the Elvis Presley music group.
Okay.
So he got my name and number, and he called me one day and he said, "I'm a writer. I'm trying to get songs in Elvis movies. I want some cool demos. Would you be session leader and make some demos?" Okay. Yeah, we'll do that.
Yeah.
So we did probably 3 or 4 demo sessions with him, and he did get some songs in Elvis movies.
Okay.
And the songs he didn't get in, he'd try to get other people to record. He was in New York once, and he playing his songs, and the head of A&R at Columbia Records said, "These demos are great. Where did you record these?" And he said, "In Nashville." And then he used this magic word. He said, "Did you produce these?" And he thought, "Yes." And he said, "You think you'd like to be a record producer?" "Yes." And he said, "Well, we have an artist on the last, she'll be on the last session of her contract. And if we don't get anything good with her, they're going to drop her. Would you like to try a session on her?" And he said, "Who is it?" They said, "Patty Page."
Wow. She ended up with a ton of hits too.
Yeah. Well, this was toward the end of her career. She
Yeah.
already had. But anyway, so he was a pretty smart guy. He used the connections he had with the Elvis Presley music group in Los Angeles
Mm-hmm.
and found out a movie that had a theme that needed recorded. So he brought Patty Page to town, and we went to the Quonset hut, and he recorded "Hush Hush Sweet Charlotte,"
Okay.
which was a big hit for Patty Page.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden, Columbia Records thinks, "Man, who is this guy we found?"
Yeah. In
And
Nashville.
they said, "You think you might want to try a session on Bob Dylan?" And he said, "Yes."
Yeah.
So
Probably great decision.
he went to New York, and he told me, "If you ever come up here, I'll get you Broadway theater tickets." Okay, so 1964, I went up to go to the World's Fair, and I called him and I said, "Hey, I'm in town. How about my Broadway tickets?" He said, "No problem." He said, "Come over to Columbia Studio this afternoon. I'm recording Bob Dylan. I want you to meet him."
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I went over there and I went in and he introduced me to Dylan, and Dylan didn't say hello. He said, "I'm getting ready to do a song. Why don't you get that other guitar and play along?"
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
The song was 11 minutes long. It's called Desolation Row.
Right.
And I'm the only lead instrument playing, and I'm playing the guitar, and I'm thinking, what would Grady Martin do? You know?
Right.
And so we did that. And a couple of months later, Bob Johnson calls me and says, "Dylan's coming to Nashville. Book the guys." Okay. It seems that Dylan didn't want to come to Nashville to begin with.
Okay.
So he said to me, By the way, I was using you for bait. So that's it. He came and Blonde on Blonde
Yeah.
was his biggest album.
Uh-huh.
And I played harmonica on one song on that album. So I'm the only harmonica player that's ever recorded with Dylan.
Other than himself. Right.
Yeah. And he did that, John Wesley Harding, Nashville Skyline, and Self Portrait, all in Nashville.
Incredible.
Yeah. So, and that was huge. Opened the door to all these people, you know, Peter, Paul, and Mary, Manhattan Transfer, the Byrds,
Sure.
Joan Baez, Buffy St. Marie,
Right.
Dan Fogelberg, Gordon Lightfoot. I mean, it just
It
goes on and on and on and on. Yeah.
Yeah. And you were the session leader on those recording sessions, right?
I was the session leader.
What was you know, I mean, so you're interfacing with Bob Dylan constantly throughout these recording sessions, I would imagine. What was that dynamic like? What was it like to be creative with Bob Dylan?
Well, not much. He'd play the song and I'd walk over and say, well, what if you think if we would do this or do that? And it was like he had a recording. I don't know, man. What do you think? So I went and told Bob Johnson, I said, listen, I'm asking for suggestions. He's not giving me any. So I'm just going to do what I think.
Yeah.
And he said, that's what I would do if I were you. I said, maybe if he doesn't like something, he'll speak up.
Yeah.
And that's the way it went. And that's the way it went the whole time through John Wesley Harding and Nashville, Scotland. The whole time was like that.
Unbelievable. What an imprint you have on American history. Just if that were the only imprint you had alone, that's just incredible. Incredible. Yeah. Well, so you were a member that became sort of a member of the ATeam, and then you were sort of off to the races. You did, I read somewhere where you did 400 sessions a year for like 15 years.
Yeah, it was busy.
I mean, that's incredible. And
late 60s through the 70s, through the early 80s. Yeah, I was busy. Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't take a mathematician to count that up pretty quickly. That's thousands of sessions that you were doing. I mean, and it wasn't just on harmonica. I mean, you also play bass, you play guitar. You came to Nashville as playing drums too, right?
Well, that wasn't my goal, but that was the only job that was there.
Okay.
I was promised a guitar job. Uh-huh. When I got here, it seems that my friends who made this connection forgot to call the guy back, and he'd already hired a guitar player. Now I've just dropped out of college, right?
Right.
And I walk in, and the guy said, "Well, we never heard from you. We have already hired a guitar player." You can imagine where my head was at that time.
Yeah.
But the guy was so nice, and he said, "What else can you play?" I said, "I'll play harmonica." He said, "No, can you play drums?" And I knew a little bit about drums.
Okay.
And I said, "Yes, but I don't have any." He said, "We'll get you some."
And
it was do it or go back home with your tail between your legs, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And Nashville's like that. You have to sort of be able to adapt and just say yes and figure it out later.
That's right? That's it.
Yeah.
Say yes and figure it out.
Uh-huh. What did you, I'm sure you learned, I mean, you mentioned earlier all the things, you know, that you had learned so much from the guys in the ATeam. I mean, the ATeam, we all of us know what a legendary group of players that was. What were some of the things that they taught you?
Well, the main thing is, you know, we're backing up singers,
and
lyrics are important.
Sure.
And style is important, you know. If you're playing on a beautiful ballad with Brenda Lee, don't try to play through a green bullet with a distortion. You know what I'm saying? Right. I mean, that's probably a big exaggeration, but that's the idea. You know, you gotta. That's a good thing. Country music is lyrics, and you gotta, you know, as opposed to some R&B, which is just a groove, and you know, Wilson Pickett, for instance. You know, there was no fill instruments on his records because between every line he was going, "Oh, good God," You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. But in country music, no, we had a chance, instruments had a chance to fill. And they would never tell you what to play. They tell you where to play. And
Okay.
it's up to you to figure what to play. And
You,
you got to figure it out now,
right now.
because they were expected to do 3 or 4 songs they've never heard before and make the record in 3 hours,
Mm-hmm.
which is
Wow.
the difference in Nashville and, say, Muscle Shoals, Memphis, and Motown. They didn't work with a clock in those places.
Mm-hmm.
But in Nashville, we worked with a clock. And it's a difference in us and the Wrecking Crew in LA, because they used all written arrangements.
And you guys
None
didn't.
of ours, no. I mean, there were some every once in a while when you'd hear Orbison with a bunch of strings.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
But no, for the most part, the people that came to work knew what to do. They knew the drill. And when they pointed at you, you figure it out.
You went.
And the people that figure it out the most often and the most successfully get the work. That's the way it is.
That's the way it is. Absolutely. So, wow, that's sort of mind blowing. And is it true that this was before the Nashville number system? So you guys were like listening to I'm assuming a demo.
Right. We listened to a demo and you memorize it out of the chute, because now you got to also, the music, the basic music, country music was a lot simpler back then. It was much easier to get onto it, And then of course we had our after Floyd Kramer kind of bowed out on piano and Pig Robbins took over.
Uh-huh.
This guy's like a computer. He's blind,
Right. Mm-hmm.
but he's the first one in the room to learn a song. I'll guarantee you that.
Yeah.
And I've been on many sessions where somebody said, "Hey, Pig, how's the bridge go?" I mean, this.
Yeah. He's the
Yeah.
go-to guy. He's the go. That's incredible. So you've recorded maybe, what is it, 41 albums of your own.
43.
43 records of your own.
Yeah.
That's impressive. And you mentioned, how you're a fan of lyrics and you're a fan of singers. If I could make an observation, a humble observation, I feel that makes total sense to me, because when I hear you play, you sound like a singer. Your phrasing and
Yeah. If I don't know the lyrics to a song, I have a lyric sheet in front of me.
that's a great tip, actually.
Yeah, because I think when people listen to instrumentals, in their mind they're singing along.
Mm-hmm. Yes, you're right.
And I think it's like I've had young harmonica players say, "Man, all you ever do is play the melody," And I said, "Hey, you know what? I don't really make records for harmonica players, and
Uh-huh.
I don't really make records for musicians. I make records for fans, for country music fans,
Yeah.
because the people out there, I call my audience is the RV crowd. They go in an RV to Florida every winter,
Yeah.
and they still buy music. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And they buy
Mhm.
CDs, and they love the great old classics, and that's who my audience is. So
Yeah.
that's who I make records for.
Right. Right. Do you still make records the same way? I mean, we've had so much of so much technology has been introduced to the way records are made. Some would argue that's a good thing, and I'm sure in many ways it is. I've made records, where of course, it's all Pro Tools and it's sort of, the producer is in there and editing and doing all of these things. But no one would argue, I think, that there was a magic to the way records were made before, when everyone was in the same room playing at the same time. You got performances then. People had to be, as you say, on their game and ready to go. Do you still sort of subscribe to that sort of way of making records, or?
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. The last session I did was for this latest album I have out. It's the Cajun New Orleans music.
Mhm.
And we had 9 people in the room, counting myself.
Uh-huh.
And we did 5 songs, and we quit in 2 hours and 40 minutes.
Wow. That's the way it is. That's the way it should be, man. That's the way.
Well, that's the way I do it.
Yeah.
Number one, you know, okay, making CDs has become an expensive hobby.
Mm-hmm.
It
Mm-hmm.
really has. And, but it's my hobby. And we sell enough overall to support my hobby
Yeah.
because I love to make this. I love to make these records. It's like my art, and
Yep.
I'm
It is.
preserving it. Yeah, and I use so many different people. I mean, it would. Most people don't even believe this, but 43 albums, one EP, one instructional DVD, counting musicians, singers, and engineers. My number's up to now 502.
Wow.
Yep. And I've still got a long list to go.
Yeah.
This town is so full of amazing talent.
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
what I love to do is get a group of people together in a room who've never recorded together before. On my last Christmas album, I started out with one of those deals. I know none of these people had ever played together,
Mm-hmm.
and it was gorgeous. It was just because everyone who does studio work here, they know the drill. You
Right.
know,
Right.
check your ego at the door.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Absolutely. That's a Nashville like sort of a rule, right?
Right. When it's your turn, do something appropriate and great.
Yeah.
But when it's not, fit in and be a part of it. And it
Absolutely.
just works. It's so much. It's so good here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Nashville's there's no place like it for recording, and the musicians that sort of it's Mecca, really. I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's the as far as recording with live people, it's probably the recording capital of the world now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
I would agree. I would agree.
Yeah.
Well, man, your creativity doesn't. I'm going to lead you down a little path here, if you don't mind. Your creativity doesn't stop with being a musician. And I'm curious to know because I have a collection here of Charlie McCoy records, and the artwork on these album covers is some of the greatest artwork on any album of all time. And I just want to kind of go through some of these. I mean, first of all,
Well, let me tell you how this came about. I was recording for Monument Records. By the way, I have to give a shout out to the dearly departed Fred Foster, who
mhm,
was the owner of Monument. He's the guy who discovered Orbison, Dolly Parton, Christofferson, the Gatlin brothers. I mean, it goes on and
wow,
so and I was working sessions for him, and one day he said, "Hey, man, come out to my office. Let's have some lunch. I want to talk to you." And okay. And I went out and he said, "I'd like for you to make some records." And I said, "And do what?" He said, "I don't care. Just go in the studio and be creative." Well, back in the early 60s, we had a rock and roll band called the Escorts.
uh-huh,
And we did it for fun, play on the weekends, Vanderbilt fraternities, Fort Campbell,
yeah,
high school proms, whatever.
okay,
And we were the only band of white guys in Tennessee that were playing Motown. And
oh,
I had Kenny Buttry on drums, Wayne Moss on guitar. I mean, this was a heavyweight band.
right,
And so uh, we started making these records with this band, and it was kind of R&B, and
hmm
nothing. 8 years we couldn't give away one of these records. I'm not kidding you.
wow,
And I would go to Fred every year and say, "Fred, it's not working." He said, "Keep looking, you'll find it."
wow,
Can you
wow,
imagine that?
yeah,
They
I
wouldn't
can't.
give you 8 months in this day and time.
No, they wouldn't. You're right.
No. And then finally, when we hit on that first instrumental, uh, I was so happy. Not okay, I was happy about it. Yeah, it won me a Grammy, and
Yeah,
the album was a huge hit.
uh-huh,
But for his patience to be rewarded like that,
hmm
and then boy, we were on a roll.
yeah,
That album won the Grammy. The next one went to number two. The third one went to number one.
yeah,
You know,
uh-huh.
I mean,
I
it
mean,
was a
I'm holding some of them right now. I mean,
that's
you
right.
have such a great sense of humor, by the way. I mean, if
No,
you don't mind, I'm going to rifle through some of these.
right.
This is one of my.
Okay, so what happened was Monument signed a distribution deal with Columbia Records,
Uh huh.
and they turned their artwork over to the art director of Columbia Records. It
Okay.
was a guy named Bill Barnes.
Uh-huh.
And when Bill Barnes and I had a meeting about this album cover, the Real McCoy,
Uh-huh.
the one you just held up.
Yeah, this one right here. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. At that time, Columbia Records, most of their albums were just a headshot of an artist.
Right. Right.
And Bill Barnes said to me, he said, you know something? You know, all they could let me do at Columbia is headshots. He said, are you game to try something a little
Mm-hmm.
off the wall? And
Yeah.
I said, sure,
Yeah.
you know. And he came back with this, and I thought, this is brilliant.
Yeah.
And so for all these Monument albums, I just let him go. Most of this was his creation, Bill
Okay.
Barnes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you showed up to the photo shoot. I mean, I hate to keep harping on it to use a harmonica term, but the Nashville Hitman.
Yeah.
That's incredible. This one, Country Cooking. Come on, man. That is so cool. That's so
I know. And that's my family's in the background. Even my mother's in that picture, you know.
Oh, really? Oh, that's great.
My kids and my mother and our dogs.
Yeah. That's so great.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it was really cool.
you've been
So
go ahead. I'm sorry.
I have continued on with this idea,
Uh-huh.
this theme of zany album covers ever since.
Yeah, well, it's a winning idea. I mean, it's inspiring. I have these as artwork around my house, because they're they're so cool, so cool. Yeah. Well, I mean, as I mentioned just a moment ago, you've been sort of on the fore of of a lot of things musically, even artwork we just described. But I think my earliest introduction to you would have been when I was a kid, and my parents were big fans of a TV show called Hee Haw.
Right.
Love
Right.
that TV show, and I didn't know until years later that you were the musical director of that show.
Well, I did the last 18 years of it.
Okay.
The show ran 24 years.
Okay. Oh, okay. Wow. All right.
I joined the show in season 7
Mm-hmm.
to be part of the band.
Okay.
Then the second half of season 7, they made me band leader. And at the end of that, the next year, he said, the boss man said, listen, our music director, who's a guy named George Ritchie,
Mm-hmm.
is leaving the show. He's marrying Tammy Wynette.
Okay. Yeah.
Would you consider being music director? And I said, man, I don't know. I am so busy doing studio work. He said, you wouldn't have to be here any longer than you are. Because with Hee Haw, the band was only on call about 8 days of a month,
Okay. Okay.
And we did it all, 13 shows in 1 month. And
So
then,
that's the season right there, right?
well, it's half.
Okay. Okay.
We did 13 in June, and we'd come back in October and do 13 more. That was it.
Wow.
And then for the rest of the half year, they reran all those shows,
Right.
So it was really it was quite a production. The model of the production was after Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In.
Okay. Yeah. I've seen
Yeah.
those in syndication. Right.
Yeah, and the people on there, man, you walk in, there's legends everywhere,
Yeah.
Buck Owens, Roy Clark,
Mhm.
Grandpa Jones,
Mini Pearl.
Archie Campbell, Roy Acuff, Minnie Pearl. I mean,
Yeah.
it was great, and everybody in that cast was so enthusiastic about what they were doing, and it was a real pleasure to go in every day.
And you could tell watching that show how much fun the cast members were having, because
It was, and there were so many practical jokes too. I mean, behind the scenes, if they could issue outtakes,
uh-huh.
they have hours and hours of outtakes.
Yeah, they should do
There's some
that.
funny stuff in those outtakes.
Well, they were funny people. They were all funny people. I mean, it's not often that you get a great musician who's also incredibly funny, but I mean, Roy Clark was a funny guy.
Absolutely.
You know?
Be sure that he was. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
man, I love that show, and I miss it. Sometimes you can catch on their advertising. You can buy it on DVD or whatever,
Right.
and I'll just sit and watch because they're showing like the greatest hits. of those
Yep.
things.
Yep.
Now, were you playing I'm sure you played harmonica on that show, but were you also playing other instruments?
Sometimes I would, yeah, sometimes I would, when I took over, I got kind of flexible. I got the boss man to let me hire a utility man who could cover steel guitar, regular guitar, and bass.
Uh-huh.
And I was a little more lenient with the band about getting off for sessions.
Oh, okay, right. Because you're a session guy. You knew how important that was to make a
Right.
living.
So between me and this utility guy I hired, we could cover almost everything, guitar wise. Plus, I could play piano.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I ended up doing a few different things on there.
That's incredible. And you also were in the band for is it Charlie Chase and so Crook and Chase TV
Yeah, I
show?
did. I did
Nashville Now?
8 months of that show, the last 8 months of it.
Yeah.
And the funniest thing was they, they had a couple horn players in the band,
Uh-huh.
and they let them go and brought me on board. They said the show needs to be more country. The first week I was on the show, two of the guests were Chubby Checker and Bo Diddley.
Country. Right. Exactly.
Yeah, yeah, go figure.
Yeah, I know. That's the music business, I think, right? But it's
Right.
amazing. You play if there's an instrument, you play it. I mean, you play tons of wind instruments. You play vibraphone. I love
Yeah,
vibes.
I play vibraphone, marimba, uh, sax,
Mm,
trumpet, tuba.
sax. I started on sax. Great instrument.
Yeah, and I don't play fiddle. I don't play five-string banjo, and I don't play steel guitar.
Okay, but other than that, you
Other
pretty
than
much good.
that, I'll pretty much my latest toy now is Irish whistle,
Oh, okay. Is that like
tin
a
whistle.
penny whistle? Yeah.
I love those things.
Wow.
I
Wow.
love them. Yeah,
Wow. Are the fingerings like a saxophone or a clarinet or?
a bit. Yeah,
Okay.
just a little bit. But there's only three holes.
Oh, only three.
I mean, six.
Okay.
Three
Okay.
and three, and
Hmm.
there's nothing in the back.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah, but there's those guys who really do that. That's just as amazing to me.
Yeah. Yeah. It is beautiful when a guy can really play it. It's
Yeah.
incredible. So speaking of Ireland, and that leads me into to Europe. I mean, you've done a great deal of touring throughout Europe and Japan.
Yeah, I've been to Japan 20 times.
Are you a fan of sushi?
No,
You like your
no.
fish fried, right?
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah. Back when I was a kid, we'd call that bait.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. But
No, I have a lot of great friends in Japan. I love the country. I love to be there. I just don't like to go there.
it's a long trip, right?
Woo, is it ever?
Hmm.
Uh, but I've been all I've played a lot in France
Hmm.
and a lot in Denmark.
Okay.
I had a recorder with a Danish star in 1987, and
Mhm.
his manager said, "Listen, this little record label he records for would like for you to do some recording for them." And I said, "What do they want me to do?" And they said, "Oh, we don't care. Just do your thing."
Hmm.
So I did 3 albums for that record label, and then they brought me over to tour. Well, I this band they had to back up were uh, three Dutch guys, and two French guys.
Okay.
And one of the French guys said, "Hey, man, you want to play in France?" I said, "Yeah, I'd love to." And so I've toured a lot in France and a
Great.
lot in Denmark, and the later and a side benefit of that was Belgium and Switzerland, the
Right.
French parts. And in the last few years, my new place is Czech Republic.
Czech Republic. All right.
Yeah.
Right on. So, what sort of differences do you notice between European audiences and audiences here in the States? Or do you feel any differences there? They're pretty much the same. I'm at.
Well, it depends. It's different country to country. Like in France, they go to party.
Uh huh.
You know,
Yeah.
it's a party crowd. But in the Czech Republic, man, they're like glued to everything you're doing. I mean, it's like the attention they get to the music is really weird. And I mean, I love it because if you're really trying to do something creative, they're taking it in. You know,
There
they
to take
really
it in.
love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right on. Well, I'm curious because you have been such an inspiration for so many musicians. This being a harmonica based podcast, speaking, I guess, more toward the harmonica, you've inspired so many players, myself included. You being the OG, Charlie, I mean, who you came in to Nashville as ended up being the harmonica player. Uh, how do you find inspiration? Where do you find inspiration? Where did you sort of
Well,
made the blueprint? I mean,
yeah, I learned to appreciate so much uh, the artists here and the writers here,
mhm.
the songwriters, incredible, and of course the other musicians here. And I was, man, I was like so happy to be involved with those people.
Yeah,
And I just every day I had a session, man. I'm just looking forward to going. Let's
yeah,
do this. I
yeah.
loved it. I just loved it, and I must say I probably missed some of my kids growing up, because I was working all the time.
Right.
But yeah, it's amazing, and I'm still happy to be a part of it. I
Mhm.
don't work for anybody big anymore, but I don't care.
Mhm.
I just want to go in with people that are passionate about their music and want to be there. That's
Sure.
that's it. Yeah.
That's
So
what actually that's the driving influence. You're right.
yeah,
And also, I mean, I guess I could probably say this with some truth there that there's no one bigger than the people you worked with. So you've sort of been there and you've done that, and now
I
it's just
have.
about
I have.
making your art.
And
Yeah.
for me, I loved all the Elvis Presley was so great. Like he was so nice. He just couldn't have been nicer. People like Dolly and Cash and Loretta
Uh-huh.
Lynn and
Yeah.
Conway Twitty, and they were all just super, super. Most of the country artists here were just great people.
Yeah.
And it was such a pleasure to be a part of all that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and your man, your thumbprint is there. I mean, so you were in 2009. You were inducted to the Country Music Hall of Fame by your old friend Mel Tillis. Isn't
Well,
that?
he introduced me at the press conference. Harold Bradley actually did the induction.
Oh, okay, okay, all
Yeah,
right.
and I got to choose who would introduce the press conference and who would do the induction.
That's great.
So Harold had been inducted 3 years before.
Mm-hmm.
The first one inducted was Floyd Kramer,
Okay,
03. Harold was
sure.
in 06. I
Uh-huh.
was in 09. And Pig Robbins in 12 and Grady Martin in 15.
Wow, man, those all ATeam guys.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Well,
Yep.
I ask this question a lot when I'm having a conversation with guys like yourself. Was there ever a moment where you were like, oh, my God, I'm a little nervous. I mean, that's Elvis Presley across the room, or that's whomever. I mean, the list is long. You just mentioned it. I mean, was there you never had nerves?
No, not really, because I was in the company of those other great musicians, and I'm thinking, man, if these guys aren't nervous, why should I be? You
Right.
know,
Hmm.
uh, the last time I was nervous, to be honest, was in the '70s. The first time I played the national anthem at a sold out Three Rivers Stadium in Pittsburgh, and I was playing it on chromatic.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I own a chromatic. I don't play it much, but
Right. All right.
well, for
Okay.
the national anthem, you only need one note, one different note, but
Yeah.
that time I was nervous about that because I'm thinking, man, I'm in here, I'm playing a song that everybody in this place knows, you
Mm-hmm.
know.
Mm-hmm.
And well, since then, I've heard a lot of disasters of national anthems. You have too.
Yes, I have.
People that don't know the melody.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's
Yeah.
unbelievable, right?
I know it. I know it. I can't. But and then I learned later to play it on my 10 hole, which is much better for me.
And what position do you play that in on your diatonic?
Second,
Second position. All right.
with the country tuning.
With the country tuning. Right on.
Yeah, I play country tuning about 85, 90% of the time.
Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot. It's you can hit those melodies a whole lot better, right?
Well, let me tell you how that came about. On the album, you probably have the cover called the one that says Charlie McCoy.
Uh
It's
huh.
got all the little pictures of me with a big tied down harmonica.
Yeah, I've got it right here actually.
Yeah, okay. All right. On that album, I did the song Danny Boy.
Uh huh.
And on Danny Boy, uh, to play the melody right, I couldn't play the melody because of that major seventh in the melody, the
Mm-hmm.
chorus.
Right.
But come ye back. And so what I did was I played the verse on, let me see, where is it? I played the verse. I'm playing in the key of F. I played the verse on a B flat second position, like that. But when it
Yeah.
come to the chorus, I changed to an F and played in first position.
Okay.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
well, so the record comes out. One day I was down visiting Monument on Music Row, and I was back in one of the offices, and the receptionist called back and said, "There's a gentleman in here from upstate New York who would really love to talk to you." So this guy came back. He's 65 years old. He was a house painter. He
Mm-hmm.
said, "I've been playing chromatic all my life, and then I heard your albums, and I decided I needed to play the diatonic." And he said, "There's one song I don't understand how you did it.
Uh-huh.
It's the song Danny Boy." And I said, "Well, have you got any thoughts about how I did it?" And he said, "Yes, I do." He said, "You took this harmonica and you took the sides off of it and you started scraping on this reed."
Uh-huh.
And he had a harmonica and the guy was scared to death, but he's played. He said, "That's the way you did it, isn't it?" And I said, "No, but that's the way I'm going to do it from now on." And after he walked out, I called my guy at Hohner. I said, "Hey, something you got to know about."
Yeah. Right. Wow.
And they made me a whole set of them.
And you're responsible for that. I love that. And this house painter from
A
upstate New
house
York.
painter from upstate New York discovered it. I know it. Isn't that
That's
crazy?
it's incredible. I love it. Speaking of Hohner, we got to give them a shout out. You've been with Hohner for many, many years, right?
I think I've been endorsing about 40 years. Yeah, something
Wow.
like that.
Yeah.
They've been so good to me. And now that they moved here,
Mm-hmm.
well, a lot
Yeah.
of people don't realize that the
Yeah.
national headquarters is here, y'all.
That's
It's
it.
not in Richmond, Virginia anymore. And
No.
before that, it was in New York.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
No, it's here now. And
Hmm. Yeah.
they got a young fellow out there who's a genius on tuning and
Yeah.
mixing,
Yep. Mm-hmm. I've been
Tim
back there.
Schofield.
Yeah. It's
Yeah, he's
unbelievable.
that he's sharp. I must say he's sharp.
Yeah, they're good, and they're just good people out there. They've been so good to me. In fact, they sponsor this podcast. That's this wouldn't be happening with.
Yeah, I know. Doesn't Tim Gonzalez do
Sure.
something
Yeah.
on this too as
Yeah,
well?
he
Yeah,
does. He's Tuesday afternoons. He and the Hohner rep Derek Frank have a great.
yeah. I
There's
love I love Tim, man. He's so into it.
he's so
Yeah,
enthusiastic, and he
yeah,
loves you,
yeah,
man. Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. I interviewed him a few weeks ago, and we talked about you, and he mentioned that he was going to have you on. He's doing a new record, and you're going to play together on a new record. His record or your record, or there's a record happening that you're going to play together on.
Well, it's going to go on both of our records.
Okay, fantastic.
I want to do an EP with the Nashville harmonica players.
Uh huh.
I've already got Mickey and Buddy and and Jelly Roll.
Jelly
Now
roll.
I want
Love jelly.
PT, Tim, and Pat Bergeson.
Pat Bergeson, right?
An
Yeah,
EP. Yeah,
yeah.
and we'll call it Harp Playing Fools. Yeah.
I can imagine the album cover artwork for that record.
Yeah. Well, that'll be a good one. But I've got so many projects in my head.
Yeah,
Still,
that was going to be
and
my next question for you. What is next for Charlie McCoy?
I'm debating. This pandemic just killed that Cajun New Orleans album. I
Hmm.
mean, it just killed it.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about maybe doing another country gold.
Mm-hmm.
Country Gold I did before this one. It's already broken even, and
Nice.
it's just nothing but classic country hits.
Yeah.
But then my big project that I'm going to do next year is another gospel project, which I've written or co-written every song on the record,
Wow.
and it's all vocals and all lyrics, and I'll have all my whole family on it, and a
Nice.
lot of friends, a lot of guests, But
Nice.
that's next year. It'll be called "It's in the Book."
It's in the.
Yeah.
You're clever. I love it. And I didn't realize, I'm sorry, I didn't realize that you were also a songwriter. I mean, when I think about your career, I have to ask myself, when did you sleep? I mean, learning all of these instruments, doing all these sessions, all these TV shows, a touring calendar that you have put together, making.
Well, the touring calendar came later, after
Okay.
the studio work had started to back off some.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really unbelievable, man. You're an inspiration. As I've said that like 5 times, but it's true. It's true. I'm so grateful that you've been here today, man. It's an honor, and I know a lot of harp players are going to be tuning into this episode to watch, see what you have to say. And
Well, I'm doing the Opry tonight.
Really fantastic.
7:20. Yeah, my first time this year.
Wow. All right.
Well, we all know this has been a strange year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm doing the Opry tonight, and I'm doing it again Christmas night.
All right. Great. Great.
Yeah. And then my wife and I live in Florida in the winter.
I heard that.
January, February, March, we live in Florida.
Whereabouts in Florida?
Fort Myers.
Fort Myers, beautiful area.
Yep. Yep.
My friend Jerry Fierro was telling me that that you spend you do your winters in Florida. And
yeah, we this will be our 23rd winter, and we have so many friends down there, and
yeah.
I like the weather down there that time of year.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I'd like to live there in the winter myself. Oh man. Well, hey, listen, we spoke briefly before the show. I sort of sprung it on you, and I'm bad about that because I'm always so concentrated on the artist and getting to know you and having that great conversation. But there's so many harmonica players out there that would love to hear a great Charlie McCoy lick, and so I've started to do this thing called the Lick of the Week. And if you're game, no pressure, but if you're game, would you mind giving us a Charlie McCoy lick of the week?
Oh yeah, something you'd hear a steel guitar play.
Okay. Oh man, can you play that in a like a lot slower? No, I'm kidding. Wow, that's going to keep people busy for the rest of the year. We're already at the end of the year. It's going to take a lot of guys a year to learn how to play that.
You know what? Okay. My show closer is Orange Blossom Special always.
Mm-hmm.
And I love to play bluegrass.
And
I play, John Henry, Sugarfoot Rag. I can play pretty fast.
Oh yeah.
But what I really love is I love to play ballads.
Yeah, and you do them well. And you play them so well. They're expressive. You're like a singer with this harmonica. It's impressive.
I'm looking for those lyrics.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's incredible. Charlie, thank you so much for your time. I know your time is valuable, and just beyond grateful that you were here today. I hope we can do this again sometime.
Well, thank you. I'll be happy to do it. Be doing the Opry tonight, 7:20 with an amazing Opry staff band and singers.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, all my stuff is on charliemccoy.com.
That's right. And I'll post that in the show notes on the YouTube channel, so everyone can do the
instructional DVD, autobiography. the EP called "It's Hits of Henry Mancini,"
Mm-hmm.
and then the 43 others. They're all available.
They're all available. I love it.
Yeah.
And if people like me are will go out to the record stores, the vinyl stores, you can dig these up, folks, and hang them.
We have a few. We have about 9 or 10 titles left on vinyl.
What really?
On our website, yeah.
Okay, fantastic.
Yeah.
'Cause that's up and coming. People are back into vinyl for sure. It's a big thing.
Yeah, that we got. If you're touring a lot, we got spoiled with CDs because they're a lot easier to carry a bunch of them around than it is a bunch of vinyl.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It takes up a whole lot less space.
Sure does. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, man, again, thank you so much. Have a wonderful show tonight on the Grand Ole Opry. By the way, is that at the Ryman, or will that be at the Opry House out in
Opry House?
Okay.
Opry House, and they're doing about half an audience, I think.
Mm-hmm.
For a while they were doing no audience at all on the Opry, but now they've expanded to Friday night. They did one last night and they did one tonight, and they've expanded, I think, from 1 hour to 2 hours.
Oh, wow. Great. Fantastic. Yeah. I'll tune in tonight. This will air next Tuesday because, as you know, we're pre-recording this. But
okay.
So everyone needs to know Christmas night, after you've opened your present.
Christmas night, yep.
You need to tune in to the Grand Ole Opry, see the legendary Charlie McCoy.
And I got a very nice Christmas song for him that night.
Okay. All right. Great.
Yeah.
Perfect. I will be there.
All right.
All right, brother. I appreciate you. Peace and love,
Jamie.
Happy holidays.
Keep on harping, man.
Yes, sir, I will.
All
Thanks
right.
a lot. Bye-bye.
All right.